Hi everyone, I'm Karen from Karen Test Stuff on Twitter and YouTube, and today I'm here with AJ. AJ is a quality coach and going to take us through kind of how quality coaches are similar and different to testing advocates. Hi AJ.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Doing great. It's great to have you here today. I'm
Oh,
excited to
thank
get
you.
started. So, in your capacity as a quality coach, there seem to be a lot of parallels between that and what I'm calling a testing advocate. So, I was wondering if you could kind of take us through what is a quality coach?
Yeah, sure. Obviously context varies depending on the company or and where you're doing it, what country. But in my capacity, I create and promote a quality mindset within the engineering team and also within the business. I work with stakeholders to determine quality goals, explore the product to gain context, but also look into observability to get more data and better context of what's happening after the product's been shipped, and then how we can improve it and shift left more
Oh,
with the
I love
teams.
that. That's wonderful. I've been doing a lot of work on operability myself recently. It's very important and really helps gain influence in with stakeholders and the development team. I really like that. So basically, you've given us kind of the elevator pitch. Let's dig in a little bit. So when you are working to promote this mindset within the team, um, how is that process kind of similar to what I would do as a testing advocate? Where if here's my thought process behind this is testing advocates could come in at any point, anywhere, anytime, and say, here are some suggestions for your process. Here are some things that have worked well for me. What would you do as a quality coach coming in that similar situation?
So the first thing would be spend time with the team, understand how they work and what their strengths are, how mature they are in certain aspects of quality, and then have conversations with them, which is the most important, is the communication part and understanding again context, what they think performance testing is, what they think quality is, how do they use security testing, what do they do in terms of regression or characterization tests, that type of thing. And then when you have a measurement of how mature each individual person is on the team and then your area, it enables you to create almost like a quality roadmap where you can then have an agreement. It has to come from the team, and it has to be based on what they feel is important. And then your expertise and knowledge can help guide them. If there's 5 paths, say maybe just focus on these two, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can take it from there and work iteratively because the focus of the team will shift depending what you're shipping, or what's happening in the business at that time.
It's very interesting that you say that it needs to be iterative because I work on an iterative team right now, and we literally do iterate through everything, ideas, roadmaps, stories, things like that. So that's very important to just the way that I specifically work. So that resonates with me. So what are some differences that we see here? We've got like that a quality coach can really come from anywhere. They don't have to come from testing. It just seems to be kind of a natural progression for testing, doesn't it?
It does. However, I feel that having a quality mindset and being a test advocate, although there is crossover, although my job role is a quality engineer, quality advocate, I am a test advocate because I feel that that background of knowledge and expertise that we have as test advocates really enforces quality and really brings it through because we have that knowledge in those different ways of working, and there's more exploration in our ideas and more creativity and curiosity.
Mm, absolutely. Definitely. I I really liked that we specifically called out advocating to the public
Mhm.
would be something that a test advocate would do from my mindset, from this idea that I've kind of pieced together with different people inside my mind. And I just don't know. I don't know how to bring that to fruition yet. How would you go about kind of public awareness of testing?
For me, one of the things I used to do quite a lot before COVID happened was take part in women in tech, FEMS and them groups.
Yes.
Because there's always a very strong presence of either the program side, project management, or software development itself, like developers. Um, and people don't talk about the testing side of things or the quality side of things.
Mhm.
So having that presence in those groups and talking about those topics gets a lot of people interested, and they can see it from a holistic perspective, not just these single lines of people that are delivering things.
Yes, yes. I see that in my example that I used when I first started this series was the video game conferences, how you see development leads, design heads, product managers. You don't see the testers a lot of times on
Mm.
like development panels and things like that, behind the scenes stuff for the video game players. And I'd really like to see that. That's just one space where I could see it really come to fruition there.
Mm.
So, how can these roles really provide value? We split in a couple of different topics here, but I'd really like to just kind of throw the question to you and see where it takes us.
Oh, it's a really big question.
Right. Okay. In that case,
Um,
let's narrow it down to, let's say, providing value on the product team, taking small pieces of each role's work and kind of transforming it into something that's taken to the next level.
oh, so for me in my current role, a really big part of that is being the bridge between the technology, the product owner, and the business, because the shareholders and the platform external stakeholders have a very different desire. And we also have consumers of what we deliver within technology, within our business. And we have to make sure that, again, it's like a spider web, that everything's being thought about.
Mhm,
And just because someone wants something doesn't mean it's more important than what we actually do need or what we can technologically provide.
mhm,
Is it achievable? Are we shifting left enough? Have we done enough discovery? Has there been enough conversations? Do we want to change our domain architecture? There's all sorts of things that we think about. Our
mhm,
heads are constantly spinning and asking questions.
mhm.
And that's one of the great things about having a testing and quality mindset. We do think about those things.
We do. Yeah, absolutely. And bring the things that get stuck in the web to light.
Mm.
Because sometimes we can take those things out without too much damage. Sometimes we have to restructure the web, and
Mm.
that's okay. But I really feel like being a quality coach empowers other people. It gives them the shared understanding in their language because you're using the communication on their terms or should be.
Yes. Mhm.
And then it gives them the power to then take that information into their own terms and what does quality mean for them.
Exactly.
Can really appreciate that. So when we're looking at kind of making sure that there's this north star somewhere. I know a lot of people are familiar with the concept of a north star, but can you give kind of a summary real quick on what that means?
Um, so I'm trying to think of a good context. For
Mhm.
example, you have a developer who's quite green, been developing for 2 years. They're very good at what they do, but they don't have the t-shirt experience, if you will, of software development. Their code's very good. They think about TDD in a good way. They pair excellently, but they haven't thought about things like performance or resilience. So then we would say, this is really good where we are now, but what do you feel we could do to be better? Not perfect, because that doesn't exist, but the whole point of quality is you're always improving a little bit as and where you can. So we would have that conversation, say, if you could make this the best performing API in the world, where would it be? And then work our way backwards and say, this is our journey to how we get there then. And we choose our battles and we do a little bit by little bit. We don't try and go all out, big bang,
Mm.
because that might be the wrong thing. And we take measurement with each iteration again and make sure we're getting to the right place.
Absolutely. And every step moves us forward. If
Mm.
you continue moving in a direction, you can
Yeah.
change directions, but if you continue moving in a direction, you'll still be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah. And
Super
as time
important.
passes, the North Star might be in a different position to where it was an hour ago. So yeah.
Absolutely. It changes. And something that's kind of stuck with me that I heard someone told me about a North Star at one point was that it's not necessarily an achievable goal. it's something that you're consistently working towards, that
Yeah,
you may not ever be able to reach fully, but it's that star that guides you as you move through your journey.
exactly. It's about the journey, and it might not even be the correct journey, but unless you try and you fail, like that's the first action in learning is when you make that attempt, and you need that to grow and to and again to iterate. That's it's all part of the process.
Mhm. Absolutely. I don't know about you, but I personally learn a little bit more from my failures than I do from my successes.
Yeah.
Because, yes, you can learn one way something works, but there's a thousand ways it'll work. The finding out the concrete ways that say no are important to me to find my goalposts.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of different ways that these roles can support not only the internal team, also the public, also yourself, because as you kind of support the other testers around you, people are going to gravitate towards that. People are going to come and advocate with you, advocate for
Yeah.
you, and you need that support because you're being so vulnerable in this role. You really have to put a lot of yourself out there, um, to make those connections.
I
So,
agree. I feel that you have to be a very much a protagonist,
mm,
and sometimes people confuse it with leadership. And it's
mm,
not that you have to have amazing leadership skills. You just have to think about putting yourself in other people's shoes and what might they need. Um, are you communicating the best way for that person? Do they have the right learning style that will help that product move forward? If not, how can you help them? What is their learning style? That type of thing.
mhm. This all circles back to empathy. All circles back
Yeah.
to empathy and shared understanding. Absolutely. So there's a bunch of different ways that these roles can kind of come to fruition. It could be a permanent position within a company, a consulting role, all sorts of different options. Um, can you speak on a couple of the people that we have listed here, kind of how they work as consultants? Like I know Lisa Crispin specifically, I'll give you an example, works as a consultant, from the external side, where she can come in and help teams kind of determine the quality mindset that applies to them and make steps towards fulfilling whatever their goal is. But there are many people that do this well.
Mm. So two main people probably stick out for me. Dan Ashby, I've mentioned, because as a Scottish person, he was probably where I'm not very good at Twitter or social media. He was very good at getting short messages across and being very distinct with his viewpoint, but also listening to others, which is very important. It wasn't a case of I'm right, you're wrong. It was always that's an interesting point and bringing other people into the conversation. So when I started, when I moved to London, going to different testing sessions and meetups, and he was there, I found it very inspiring. It made me learn more, and it made me start building a network with other testers in London and in England. And the other person that's made an impact on me is Abigail Bangser. I might have pronounced her surname incorrectly, so I do apologize. Um, but her thoughts on automation, this was like 2018, 19, were quite forward thinking at the time and very different because um, there wasn't many women who were quite publicly speaking and sharing their knowledge for free with other people. And it was really important at the time in moving what we did at that company that I was working with in changing how we did automation and improving it, um, understanding what to test and what not to test, that type of thing.
Yeah, the big question.
Mm,
Absolutely. That's really insightful. It's just there are so many people in this community that make such an impact every day,
so
whether
many.
it's
Yeah.
a tweet that they send, or a book that they publish, or a
Mm,
workshop that they run. Whatever kind of sharing we can spread around just makes us all better. And I love seeing that. I really, really admire a lot of the people that share their knowledge with the rest of the craft.
yeah.
So let's move forward into the skills. What skills serve testing advocates and quality coaches? So, the very first one, everyone together, no silos. Why doesn't it work when there are silos?
Because you get a blame culture.
Mm,
Um, when you work together and the communication's open, your even your pull request process, everything, the pipeline becomes more efficient and clear, and there's better agreement on ways of working. You then get more sustainability and less waste because you can say, well, these are the lessons I learned doing this. I don't know if that will help you. Or we tried that tool. This is why it didn't work for us. I don't know if that information will help you. Or even just setting up new alerts in your observability tool. Like this is how we did it. We took us weeks to learn this, but you can now do it a day. That's why it's so important not to have those silos.
Mm. Yes,
You can
make it
deliver
easier.
different features, but still be part of a greater team.
Absolutely. I feel like silos are kind of an individual version of gatekeeping almost. Like I
Yeah.
have this knowledge and you can't have it.
Mm,
But when we have the shared understanding and the shared language, we can get into the mindset of the other people and help them come together.
yeah, exactly.
So I like that you put here that you're a pragmatist, that you thrive on helping others. Can you speak on
I
that for a
do.
moment?
So I used to spend quite a lot of time helping women and especially single mums who weren't in tech move into tech roles, making them understand that there's more to just writing code. That's not the only aspect of tech. There's quite a lot of roles in tech, and software testing being one of them, and showing them how their soft skills and their customer service skills, their mum skills, their planning skills, all of these things that are transferable into what we do and how we do things. And especially when you find people who do question everything and you explain to them that you're not negative, that's professional pessimism. Asking those questions about the bad things is what helps improve things. That's what makes things
Yes.
better.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to come across as an alarmist
Mm,
because you do have to bring quite a lot of information that can be termed as negative.
yeah, exactly.
It's just information. It's not good or bad. It's information that helps the team make a more informed decision.
You have to have that negative viewpoint as well to some respects because when you're thinking about risks and issues, it helps you measure the risk. And you get that with your Oracle experience. You can say, well, if that did happen, what's the worst thing that could happen? Think of it like a pre-mortem.
Mm.
So this is how the person passed. What could have been done to stop it? This is why the software failed. So rather than waiting until it does go wrong, you do it before it goes wrong.
Mhm.
So it's like a reverse post-mortem. It's really good, like having that mindset that we have.
Yeah, and all of the observability logging that you can do really
Mm,
helps put some meat behind that instead of just, oh,
yeah,
I've got a feeling that this could be a risky
yeah,
area. Instead, you say, okay, so these requests are taking so long to come back, which are stacking, which are then causing a problem, and then it just dominoes.
exactly.
So there's very different ways to bring information to people. And that just comes with time. It's all part of the communication and how to add constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of that comes for me personally, from my transferable skills that I learned in retail, in customer service,
Yeah.
because you have to have a way to kind of give information to people that they're either A, not expecting, or B, are expecting a better response
Hmm.
in their mind. So you have to find a way to once again bridge that gap.
Exactly.
So, what were some transferable skills that you specifically noticed that really helped you shine in this role?
I think one of the things that really benefited me was I trained to be a midwife. So I learned a lot about sociology, psychology, behavior, and also the power of non-verbal communication. There's some things that you can give information to empower people, but you have to be able to read if they understand it or not, or if they're just doing the safe face option where they go, okay, yeah, that's fine, cool, got it. And then you can tell they don't have it.
Yeah.
And knowing how to ask those questions to make sure they do understand and can explain it back to you, and that they're not just trying to save face and blag it as well.
Yeah, very much so. Oh my goodness. I really appreciate all of the pieces of this. I don't know, this beautiful picture that comes together when you find what you're truly called to do. That
Mm,
just like you have all these puzzle pieces that you had before that are pieces of your life that somehow fit together to make this big, beautiful picture that's still not quite finished, but you can start to see the faces. You can start to see the brushstrokes in the painting behind the puzzle. And all those little details come together to make this exciting new world where anything is possible.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to share that with more people, just personally. But what about these teams that don't have testers, that don't have these innate quality advocates baked into their team for one reason or another? There could be any number of reasons. But what do you do starting off with, like, kind of advising on best practices for the team?
Oh, for a team that doesn't have a quality advocate at all?
Mhm.
Good question.
Well,
Um,
you would be the quality advocate coming in, perhaps not as an official tester, but as
mm,
a coach for this team.
um, so you would hope that with any software development or any product development, there is testing of some sort.
Yes.
And my best advice would always be, where do you think you are? And what do you not like? And what do you like? What do you think you're good at? And what do you think you're bad at? Because when you have that discussion with, say, 5 developers, they're all going to have very different opinions. And the opinions that they have as a group will be different again in private.
Mhm.
Because people are very loyal. We don't want to upset anyone. We don't want to
Mhm.
be boastful. We don't want to put other people down. And we always want to raise each other up. That's a good team. But
Yes.
sometimes you'll have people who will be in private going, I've learned this, or I've seen this on Twitter, or I follow this blogger on software testing, and I really think we could do better, but I don't want to upset this person because they've built all this by themselves. They've put all these processes in place. And it's just about helping them engage and have that conversation and think of ways that they can talk to the other developers that they pair with and giving them that confidence and that empowerment as well.
Absolutely. And, it even comes to helping look at accessible designs with designers,
Mm.
making sure that there are, accessible color palettes and all sorts of, you can get into menus using the keyboard, all the in detail pieces that even a lot of developers are aware of, but that it's less common with design. Like, I feel like just in my personal experience, there has been, like, design is concerned with the accessibility and kind of the overall user experience that the user's going to have, and then the developer is kind of involved in the technical bringing that to life, and then the testers are kind of moving along the two, kind of helping bridge between the technology that's available and the ideas that we have to create this accessible, diverse space, and then bring that together.
Yeah, I find also that you can get the opposite where you have the design team who are very UX UI focused, but they don't have the knowledge or experience to think about accessibility.
Mhm.
And they haven't thought about what tools they can plug into their software, like for Figma, to show the different steps a screen reader would take, because it's not something that's in their peripherals.
Mhm.
And then, as quality advocates and testers, we help them with that. We talk to them about shifting left in discovery and saying, you can't say that your focus is the customer experience when you're not covering all of the customer experiences. You just focus on what you think is the main persona, but you don't know what the future personas are going to be or
Yes.
what personas aren't using our product because they can't or it's not accessible enough. And so I find that in my current role, that's one thing that we're doing a lot is enabling education and conversations and like a community to talk about accessibility where we are,
Mhm.
because we have developers who are very accessibility focused, but not from the design aspect. So it's the other way around.
I see that. So maybe just like helping facilitate a zoom out a little bit.
Exactly, zooming out and also not making the assumption that it's all about screen readers, thinking about things for the deaf community. So when it's a mobile first journey, does it have the right audible response? Does it vibrate on the page when an alert or notification comes through?
Mm,
Just those little things.
absolutely. I love that. We're kind of running up to the end of our time here. I apologize. I really wish we could dig in a little bit more into these other roles here, but I want to be sure that I have space to give you a little bit of time to kind of wrap up here. If there's anything, any last imparting wisdom that you would encourage people who are maybe stepping into this space, how to even begin?
My first advice for anyone thinking about moving into a different career in tech, or especially software testing or testing advocate, quality engineer, is exploration. With exploration, your expectations are open. You don't know what to expect. And sometimes when you explore things, you have something in your mind, you have an expectation, but when you learn or you come into someone's community like software testing,
Mhm.
you learn so much more, and then your knowledge changes and your journey, your North Star changes, that type of thing. So I think exploring is very important.
Mhm.
Just explore information, explore people, explore roles, explore companies.
Yes.
Because it's not just one role, there's lots of different variations. It's like the multiverse. There's
Yeah.
lots of different types of software testing.
Absolutely. There's something for everyone. And I would piggyback off that and just say, just follow your heart. Your heart's going to take you where you feel fulfilled. And this is a great place, a great space to do that. So I really appreciate you being here with me today. I'm going to flash our handles on screen one more time here so that they know where to find us. Because if you'd like to continue the conversation with us throughout software testing advocacy, quality coaching, anything we had on screen today, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being here, AJ.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day, all.
Thanks. Bye.